So I'm going to call our Open Space Task Force of the SGIC here to order. And start us off by saying this meeting is being recorded by the Open Space Task Force, and if any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify me at this time. All right. Hey, Allison.
Hi.
Um, so also want to invite all of our associate members, Allison and Patty, to fully participate throughout the meeting. And Emily is not able to make it, so I think it's just the four of us and some member of the public. Stephanie has joined as well.
Yes, I just received a text from Pat saying they got hung up in Dubuque State Forest,
Oh.
and they probably won't be home until about 6. So she'll try to check in late.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, and I believe we have Seth from Mount Grace joining us a little bit later. I don't know, Patty, if you heard it. He never confirmed that after that email, but it sounded like he was able to. So I think he's going to be joining us around 5:30 or so. So if not, maybe we'll end early. That could be the end of it. All right. So first order of business here is just approving the minutes. And since Emily's not here, it's just the two of us who are voting, Francoise and I. So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Seconded. Any discussion?
So even though like Patty and Allison can't vote on it, they could still
discuss.
Tell us if anything is wrong, right?
Yes. Discussion is welcome from everybody on these. Okay.
Yeah. I took a look and they look great to me.
Yeah. Okay. Me as well. Thanks, Francoise, for this. It's a lot of work to do a good job with this. So thanks for doing that.
All right, you're welcome. Okay,
so all in favor of approving these minutes? Francoise? Aye. All right. Okay, moving along. So next item was just our checking back on our priorities, and a few things to say about this. One, I've been having a hard time keeping up. So I have not made a lot of progress, I'm sad to say. And hope, Patty's out and about. Nice.
Enjoying the day. Oh,
yeah,
bring the sunshine into the meeting.
We should all be out there. So at the moment, the most I've been able to contribute is to keep these meetings going, which I apologize that I've not been able to do more than that. But I do hope, and I am away these next couple of weeks, but I hope after our next meeting that I'm able to dedicate some more time to actually making some progress on our priorities. And also put out there, as I have previously, that I welcome the opportunity to support somebody else in this role too, if somebody else feels like they're interested and able. SGIC does have an open spot still. They are still looking to fill a member of that team. And then the other quick note, I added a second bullet on here. Just Francoise, you brought up last meeting, which I apologize for not. I think my mindset was in a little different place, but for not being more open at that moment. But I think re-looking at our priorities is definitely something that we could do, particularly as we have more new people. So I think that as a part of this, if we think we want to amend what we're focused on, we should do that. So is there anything, again, we'll start with the first part of this here and just reporting back. Any progress that folks want to report back on since our last meeting?
I similarly have not gotten back to the mapping.
Yeah.
Patty and I tried to come up with a time to meet, and we were 2 ships in the night. So better luck this month for us to get our heads back in the mapping game.
Yeah. Awesome. You know, we're volunteers doing the best we can. So
Yeah.
hopeful.
Yeah.
We
We
got
were
a lot of-
thinking about it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Right. Great. Well, look forward to continuing to make progress on that in the coming months. The one thing, is there anything else to add on? I don't know, Patty or Francois, anything else between meetings that you wanted to chime in on?
I mean, oh, I thought you were going to go through the
Uh,
I through 1 through 8. No.
I think we're gonna have a lot of not so much progress on them, but yes, we can go through them.
Well,
So the map, yeah.
Well, one comment I have is that really all of our priorities? Because where is the 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 recreation, the parks?
Trails. Yeah, so this
Yes.
is what this is, and I can share. Let me just share my screen since this will be a good part of our larger discussion here. Um, so in this document that we've worked on, um, we created these 3 top priorities that are a combination of different parts of the action plan and the OSRP. And then underneath of each one, we just kind of broke it down into some more specific next steps. And so that's what's listed on there is just that first priorities, next steps, because that's the one that we were most focused on at the time. But yeah, perhaps the way we should represent that should be a little bit different in the agenda, and we check in on all of them. But so these next steps are what's currently listed in the agenda, just with moving this first priority forward of working to identify, map, and ultimately protect new land. Does that answer your question, Francois?
Yes.
Yeah. So the one thing I can share here, on these other ones that are listed for this first priority, we did invite Seth from Mount Grace Land Trust. So that is some progress there, continuing to build those relationships. And these other ones I know Emily and I have emailed a bit about, but have not made progress on since the last meeting. So these other ones are working on having the clarity on the process and the funding, and having that all sort of in one place to guide us when opportunities come up. The one small thing that I did after our last meeting is I did expand this. After our conversation with Marlo, it seemed we were all on the same page with prioritizing the helping to implement the pollinator action plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did add that on here. That's something that we can discuss a bit as well, sort of the next steps with that. But that's my one small contribution since our last meeting. Anything else, Patty, that you had to chime in on between meetings? You're obviously busy too. You're out and about. You're working as we speak.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you. It looks like you unmuted, but
How about?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Great. Okay, yeah, my season has just started, landscaping and taxes. So, but I did catch the planning meeting recently where they were going over the Conway School update, and they were like, whoa, what is this? Like, this is a lot, it's a big document to review. How are we going to do this? And they had been talking about the open meeting law and how they could, follow the open meeting law and then like discuss this and review everything. And I was wondering if, I mean, I feel like some of the things that we've been discussing in our meeting is helpful context that I think might be good for them to hear. And it was a little, I wished that I could have like been able to really be part of the discussion and not like just a public comment at the end. Because it just felt like a lot of like you know, so yeah, I wonder if that could maybe one of the things that we're helping with is helping them, I don't know, review the document. I know that the Open Space Task Force was born out of one of those recommendations. So, yeah, I don't know, I'm curious to think. Can you hear me?
Sorry, yeah, I can hear. Yeah, you just cut in and out a little bit there, but I got what you were saying. Yeah, the part that's
Well,
oh, do we have you?
I think she froze, or she froze
yeah.
for me.
Oh yeah. Okay. Can you hear us, Patty?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, for me, we spent a lot of time on that in SGIC. So that's why it hasn't been on my radar for this task force, since we are a part of SGIC. But of course, you and Allison and Pat are not a part of SGIC, and Emily. So it is a good point, and I don't know, since SGIC has already reviewed, after, I don't know, it was many meetings of discussion and voted on it. I don't know if the planning board is going to I mean, we could ask them, I suppose. I don't know if the role that they would see us helping with outside of it being public comment. But we could ask, and George is on SGIC as well as the planning board. So, he may understand that we have some folks that can provide some additional input. So, yeah, if you'd like, I could reach out to George and ask him how they plan to proceed and how our input could be helpful. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were talking about maybe having some kind of like Google Doc that people could like openly work on together and make comments. And they talked about wanting to be communicating with the community and have them weigh in on things, and that there's going to be a public hearing too. And I feel like that's the really important part of it, is like how to contend with the open meeting laws that are meant for transparency and also allow people to really work on things.
Yeah,
the community. I know Stephanie has their hand up for a while.
Yeah. Stephanie, you want to chime in?
Well, thank you. I was actually putting it up so I could make a public comment, but I know you have that in the section and I didn't know if you were accepting public comment. So I appreciate you allowing me to speak. I wanted to chime in on what Patty was saying, because I too attended that planning board meeting and had real concerns about the lack of one comment that came from one of the planning board members was, why do we need all these trees? Like, can't we just cut them all down? Yeah. And I was really taken aback, seeing as how actually members of my family were on the original drafting of the master plan for the city. And every part of what green means to Greenfield is embedded in that master plan. And I think it's really important for the conservation, the SGIC and the even with a statement going to the planning board as the task force saying, look, we really place and have historically placed importance on protecting our open spaces, our green, our trees for quality, our water. And that's why we have NOIs that, look at our geographical topical maps, and which I don't necessarily agree with some of the maps that are out. I think there have been things eliminated over the years that are causing some of the problems of flooding and, impervious spaces that weren't ever permitted without consideration of where the water direction might flow. So I think that those are incredibly important and really take a big stand, because really embedded in that master plan was, how do we incorporate all of what, development economically of Greenfield, but what really draws people to Greenfield is the natural beauty and the habitats, and being able to hike clean trails and have, clean water and air. And so it didn't seem to me that some of the planning board members, which are the ones that approve a lot of the plans that are coming in, are really considering the importance that is the true meaning of, I think, our master plan document. And that's really what I wanted to contribute. But I wanted to leap from my seat when they were talking about clear cutting and all kinds of stuff. I was like, what? No, read the master plan, because that's not what it says. It actually quite says the opposite.
I also really wanted to chime in at that point because one of my interests with the open space mapping and just like thinking in general is like how, I mean, the planning member, I don't remember his name, said it like, if we need to balance, like if we need to cut down trees because of the, it helps the economy, then maybe we've got to do that. And I just want to really stress that, like, I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential in being able to work more intentionally with our ecosystems. And I mentioned like agroforestry and like commons management and how the climate smart funding for from the USDA was cut, and a lot of that included funding for agroforestry and to just kind of like work with ecological solutions. So I just like feel like we could speak to that, like how like there's ways to address this, like and what's so special about it.
Oh, Patty, you're breaking up again. But I definitely get what you're saying, and so thank you, and Stephanie, thanks for your comments. I think those are great points. The one thing I'll say is that the chapters that they're reviewing have a lot of good elements that I think line up well with what you're both talking about. So I think the question is going to be is where it goes from here, and if there's resistance on the planning board to adopting this plan, because I do believe there's a lot, the stuff that's in these new chapters is great. I think there's a lot of good info in there and got a lot of good next steps. So so I think just for the sake of time now, we'll say that I'll reach out to George and just to get a sense of what their process is, and if there's a way for this group to be involved in a way that's other than just public comment, which may not be the case. That we may not have the ability to be involved outside of public comment, but I will reach out to him and find out what the next steps are. But yeah, thanks to you both for bringing that up, and those are great points. Good. Okay, so the other part of this, as I said, was sort of looking back at our priorities and our process, and that document has sort of the. Let me share it again, just as a little refresher. this document that we have is a record of our process, and with the different tabs on the bottom. We have the original 7-year action plan from the OSRP in its entirety is in that tab, the action plan in its entirety. So we went through, and we, meaning Mary, who's no longer on this group, and Emily, Francoise, and I went through and put ones and twos next to priorities that we felt were a combination of particularly urgent and that we thought were a priority for us to focus on for that reason, and secondly, an interest in something that we like had the energy and passion to spend time on, which of course is an important part of this. As an all-volunteer group, we do need to find things that we're excited about to move forward from the plan as well. So we went through that process, and of course our group has evolved since then, which is another good reason for us to be rethinking about it. And then we started to prioritize based on those ones and twos, and just where all 4 of us felt there was the biggest priorities. We put those in a tier 1 group, and just started to organize the different. So these are just directly from the action plan, just reorganized in a order of our priorities. And then we just focused in on these by creating a summary action of multiple actions within that we could say was our focus for this group. So that's the process that got us to this point of looking at, and sorry if I'm clicking quick through here for those of you, for Stephanie who doesn't have access, but for others who have access, you can click through and spend a little more time on that. But this is where we ended up with these few top priorities to try to focus on with mapping and helping the city to acquire new conservation land, or at least to conserve new land, either through acquisition or working with a partner to put a restriction on it. So that came through as our biggest priority at the time. And then we had another interest in helping improve our trails, and then this impervious surfaces analysis was the other priority we came up with. So I guess based on and then this last meeting we added implementing, or helping to move forward the pollinator action plan. So I guess the discussion topic for us here is, now that we have some different dynamic to the group, and just time and thinking about what we want to focus on, do we want to reevaluate this? And I know, Francoise, you had mentioned looking through the OSRP and feeling that there were some things that we were not talking about that were maybe some good opportunities that for us to talk about and work on now.
Yeah.
So I guess, just open that up for discussion if we want to reevaluate these priorities, and if so, what that process might look like of focusing in on some new priorities.
So as I read the actual document and not looking at the table, I saw some things which I don't have my notes with me today, but that looked like they were low-hanging fruit, and that maybe we should add them just because they would be easier to check off. Trying to think of one. Something about, I think it was something about open space that was right next to protected open space, and one of the recommendations was to approach the owners of that open space and see if they would be interested. And I think that was one of them. I'd have to go look at my notes, but there were a couple of things like this that I thought, oh, I didn't remember us discussing those or seeing them in the table necessarily.
Hmm.
Uh, so,
Yeah.
and honestly, I haven't looked back at it since last month, but I'd be happy to look at it again and next month come up with a list of how about these things? So should we add them to our to-do list?
Yeah. Yeah. With that particular lens of it seems like it's maybe not a huge amount of work
Right.
needed to make it happen. And maybe it's within the scope of what we could do with limited time.
Yeah, I like that idea too. I haven't looked at the action plan since joining the task force, so I will put that on my to-do list because I've just been kind of working off of what were already identified as the priorities. But
Yeah.
if there are little things that we could get done, that would be great. I'm in terms of like bigger new priorities, I'm feeling okay with sticking to what we've got because it sounds like we bit off some larger projects.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to keep on working on the mapping, and then um, if there is interest in piloting the pollinator mowing aspects of this, I'd be happy to put my name next to that because I think now would be a good time to like, as I have time to get out there and like start taking a look at different parks and seeing what's growing and how it's cut. Um,
Yeah.
because I think they start to mow in May or June. So,
Yep.
yeah, to pilot that process, like now would be the time. So,
Right. Totally.
uh,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
saw in the notes, I can't remember, it says Open Space Task Force would like to review the city's mowing and fall cleanup plan. Was that something that we were going to request from Marlowe, or did he give us?
Yeah. What did
Can't remember.
I remember talking about that as well. Um, I don't think he gave us something. I think that would be if I recall, that would be us following up with him to look at that
Okay.
closely. So yeah. Hi, Seth. Thanks for joining us. We're just just wrapping up this one part of the conversation. We'll be right. We'll switch right to talking with you.
All right, no problem.
Yeah. Um, so I think so I'll put you down, Emily, sorry, Allison, as as a point person at the moment, but we still have to do some thinking. It may be what we could be thinking about with the pollinators is what the clear next steps are in addition to talking with the town and how,
Yeah.
if we want to like pick a spot or two that we're just going to focus on.
Right.
Yeah. And I know there's people, and I think we all know others in town who are enthusiastic about this particular thing. So I'm sure we can
Yeah,
get some helpers.
yeah, I got in touch with a couple of those folks when I was working on putting together the recommendations for like the regional plan.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to follow up with them.
Awesome. Great. Well, I think that sounds good to me. If everybody feels good about that, if we want to, as we have time to review the action plan and just look if there are some things that seem like easy ones for us to check off the list, we can bring those back to the whole group at the next meeting or the meeting after um, and go from there. Does that sound good, everyone?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Seth, thanks so much for joining us. I know you have a busy day running between things. uh, so we'll just start off with some introductions. We can introduce our team here, and then you can introduce yourself. Uh, I'm Jonah Keene, and I'm a Greenfield resident, of course, and my day job, I work for Mass Audubon, so I'm connected with the land protection world, although that's not the direct part of my work, but just connected with it. Francoise, you want to go?
Hi, my name is Francoise Hatt, and I'm a member of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee and this Open Space Task Force. I am retired. I used to work at UMass at the Water Resources Research Center.
Allison?
Hi, Seth. I'm Allison Gage. I'm a Greenfield resident, and I'm an associate member of the task force. Just joined in November, I want to say. And during the day, I'm a land use and natural resources planner for the regional planning agency for Franklin County. So thinking a lot about land use all the time.
And Patty, you've met Seth, but you want to introduce?
Yes. I'm Patty and also a Greenfield resident. I do ecological landscaping and also do a lot of thinking about open space and land use and how to take care of it and how we could do more and get more people involved in taking care of it. And yeah, I'm just really interested to hear how things are going with you, and you're thinking about how are you prioritizing conservation planning. We're working on a mapping project.
Yeah, so yeah, Seth, if you want to introduce yourself, then I could give you a little bit more background of what we're up to, and then you can share a bit about what you're up to.
Yeah, no, I'm Seth Kelly. I do the community conservation over at Mount Grace. Trying to look at ways to take things you might be doing in the community. Just think outside the box a little bit about what we can do around conservation. I've been there 9 months, maybe.
Yeah, settling in. Yeah, great. So you've been around Mount Grace about the same amount of time we've been around. I think we've been around for not all that long as a open space task force here. So we're first of all, we're called a task force because we are underneath the existing Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee, which is a somewhat unique committee. Its creation was around the 2014 master plan, and it was created to help move the master plan forward. And in that master plan is the desire to create an open space committee, but our community hasn't quite had the ability to create one over the years due to just past mayors feeling like we don't have enough volunteer interest or it's hard enough to fill existing committees. So we decided that we would just create it as a subcommittee of an existing committee or task force. So we function like an open space committee where our goal is to implement the open space and recreation plan and support open space projects in the city. But we are still finding our way. We're a small group of volunteers that's just sort of getting our legs under us. We have gone through the open space plan and prioritized. And one of the big priorities that we've come up with is helping the city to protect more land, either through acquisition or partnering with local land trusts and using other tools like conservation restrictions to protect more land in the city. And a piece of that is we're working on mapping the city to highlight priority parcels for protection. So we've been working, it's been an ongoing process of thinking about how we want to prioritize conservation in the city, what we see as those priorities. But as a group, we've sort of all agreed that moving forward, land protection in the city is something that we really want to see happen. So as a part of that, we're reaching out, and we had one of your counterparts at Franklin Land Trust joined us just to help build the relationship there with Liam. And we invited you here for the same reason, just to start the conversation, to start to build the relationship with our group and with Mount Grace, in hopes that down the road we'll be working together and working on a project that in Greenfield and helping to protect some land here together. So yeah, so that's a little bit about us. And so yeah, would love to hear from you what you're focused on, what Mount Grace is focused on, what your priorities are these days in the land protection world.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this coming in. we're getting a lot of requests to conserve land really anywhere on that North Quabbin, right along the New Hampshire border, um, Royalston all the way over to Northfield. Just they're all coming pouring in. And when you look at the map of the conserved area, it's a lot of it's protected already. But as an organization, we do want to focus in, and Greenfield's come up a lot as a place that we don't do a lot of work because we get these larger projects from landowners out, in kind of more rural area. But we haven't really been able to find a way to do more work in Greenfield. So that is a priority for us to look at more ways to do it. But right now we don't have a lot of ways. There are some projects that are coming up that we're trying to get through, but they're in other towns. But just to kind of give you an idea, um, one of the things that we've been really looking at is we usually conserve land because it rates really high. I mean, this at Mass Audubon, we just had a meeting about the Catalyst Fund this morning. If it rates really high and it has all these, the TNC values, everything's really high, that's a priority. Let's protect that. And we kind of use the analogy of if you're a doctor and someone's really, really healthy, they come in and they leave and they're still really, really healthy. That's what a lot of that is. And we want to look at how can we place value on places that would rank really low. There's a park in the middle of Athol. It's kind of a vacant lot, but it's right on the river. Is there a value in maybe pulling that together and then immediately taking a land that would be discarded based on all those values and restoring it and being part of that? So if there's areas like that, that's something we're really interested in seeing how that can come together, because those typically have, like this particular parcel, around it is low income housing. And so now we're getting into that intersection of these are people who probably could really benefit from having access to nature that may not now. So why don't we bring the nature to them as opposed to, pass out more pamphlets that there's a trail 5 miles up the road. So just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things we're looking at.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so is green, and you say Greenfield is sort of increasingly on your radar with that lens, with the sort of like thinking of maybe there's like some restoration type projects here that could be a good focus.
We hope. I think part of it is that we haven't had to really go out and get the land. Like it's been coming to us, and those are typically large parcels of land. And so that takes us away from some of the town centers. And Greenfield's a place that we haven't had a lot of projects because we typically grab the larger ones on like Northfield and Warwick. So that was one of the ways that we thought might be an interesting way to kind of, especially combined with a group like yours, smaller parcels, connecting trails, maybe a piece that if restored would be a really fantastic spot. But right now it's just kind of, I really think of this abandoned lot that we have right on the river in Athol. If there's some things like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, great. So Patty, I see you unmuted. Do you want to jump in?
I guess I'm excited to hear that you're thinking of like vacant lots and stuff. I think that applies to how we've been trying to think about our mapping too, because it would make sense that the larger parcels rank higher in like places that are worth conserving because they're like more intact ecologically. But yeah, we have like different regions in the city that like we have like our northwestern area that is probably a lot of like ranks high on biomap and other features, and then maybe like around downtown we're thinking of like how do we think about prioritizing conservation here. So vacant lots was one thing, and I wonder about like how you think of like, I guess what are the approaches like realistically to get that working that maybe we can think about when we're trying to rank things or map things out for the city. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see how you guys come up with how you prioritize as well, because most of the priorities that we do is really based on those already conservation values. But there, and we've talked before, I mean, I think housing is a big one that comes up, where if there's a combination of, you know, there's land that we want to conserve, there's maybe land that we want to restore, and there's also housing. How do we pull those different groups together? So we're open to doing those things. We just haven't found the project where the parcel is ready to do that. Where, you know, when we have that conversation with a, you know, a landowner and they go, you know, I don't want any development here. I don't want, even when we're saying, well, you have 100 acres. Can we look at 6 acres being affordable housing or something like that? We just haven't found the folks that are willing to do that or explore that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of the other projects that we have too, um we have a rail trail that goes in Athol to the Quabbin, and we're working to get the different parcels to kind of line up. And that's a work with the town itself to see where we can be of help getting those conversations going, those neighborhood meetings, so people are willing to have the trail go through their property. And that's allowing us to think outside the box. We also get to fit in a way that the town cannot. So I can go to a meeting and I'm not a, you know, I'm not a town rep or anything like that. And I can think outside the box and say, here's all the great things we might be able to do, and people might get excited about it. And it may generate a way for us to get those pieces connected, where the town, based on their, you know, kind of their protocols of how they have to go things, they may be limited with how far they can expand the vision at those initial meetings. So that's another way. That rabbit run is an interesting one for us.
Cool. So maybe if we are able to identify vacant lots, and you would be able to maybe help talk to those landowners. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think
Some way, some process.
I think we would. I think we'd actually try to move that project farther ahead overall. So if you identified a vacant lot that could be restored into some sort of park, even if it was just to, you know, not at its natural state kind of a thing, but more of a town park, and it was surrounded by maybe some social economic needs, we might be able to champion that a little bit to other donors that may not be looking at those kind of things. So those kind of projects aren't usually packaged up for our donors and some of our partners, and we're trying to change that conversation. So that's probably the better place that we could be involved, is to connect conservationists with those kinds of projects that they may not be looking at.
Nice. And I'm thinking of next, like the big question is, how are these places going to be tended and taken care of? I feel like that's maybe pushback, like who's going to take care of it? And stewardship, I know that you've been working with No Loose Braids, and the possibility of like commons projects, and thinking about stewardship as part of this conservation process.
Yeah, I mean, so right now, really, towns become the steward if it's a park. We are doing some work with OFBA, the Office of Fishing and Boating Access. And I've learned a lot about how the stewardship piece works there. They're putting in canoe launches and pullouts along the Mills River. And so they build the boat ramps, the access points, but the land itself is managed by the town. But I don't know, the Office of Fish and Game has a different part of it. So to coordinate those pieces together and something like that, that's been a little bit tricky, but that's how those have been pretty successful. We'll have one open on the Mills River Memorial Day weekend will be our first one. And then there'll be another one in Orange, hopefully soon thereafter. But that's just one example of how we pull those pieces in. I don't know if Mount Grace would be willing to be the steward of a town park. But that's a really good question, the stewardship. The No Loose Braids piece is even trickier they're part of the land back kind of movement. And right now, the big things that they're looking at are places where they can create a farm that's more for indigenous, the Nipmuc or other groups. So there's a couple of parcels looked at as a farm, and they're actually starting up their own. I don't know if it's going to be a 501(c)(3), but an organization that can accept those donations. I don't know if that helps.
It does make sense. Yeah, stewardship side does make sense that would be the city working on that. I'm curious to know, are you partnering with some towns? I guess just trying to fully understand the role that we can have in working with you, and just to hear about you working with an open space committee in a different town and how, like, what that relationship looks like could be helpful.
To be honest, I think if we really looked at this and we wanted to be really effective, if you identify parcels or pieces of property that you thought would be, would be valuable to move forward into conservation within town. Like if you just found these are some really interesting spots that we'd like to protect, we could then have a conversation based on those pieces and say which ones Mount Grace could jump right in on. And if we couldn't jump in on, how can we facilitate those conversations? So like if there's a vacant lot that we want to turn into a park, how do we help bring in other partners and players to envision this thing and just start moving those conversations forward? But that list would be really valuable to me because it's hard for me to see what, I mean, this would be a perfect way for you guys to say, this is just the land we want to protect. And then we have that conversation of how do we want to protect it and for whom.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And
Great.
Seth, is there like a minimum size that that you would that you would consider? Like, would a parcel, a vacant lot, would have to be an acre, or could it be smaller than that?
The smaller the acreage, the harder it is for me to sell it to my board.
Yeah.
But if there's, for instance, in Royalston, we use CPA funding to do, I think it's a 1/4 acre park, where Pete and Henry's used to be. It's a small little area, and then we help facilitate the CPA funding for it. Um, so it can be small. That's not a it would be harder to get like the CR. There's a lot of different ways, and that's the problem. Is if we wanted to go to a fee acquisition where we owned it, then it would definitely have to have more of a value or connect pieces, like a part of a trail or something like that. But if it's the vision of the town, but they just can't get over the hump to acquire it, so a buy, sell, protect, and move it on. We've done some work like that. Or if it's just protecting it and coming up with the CR language and getting that piece through, and we hold the CR, that's another avenue. But it would be on a piece by piece. Um, the size is tricky because the way that all those values are set up, the larger the parcel, the more conservation value it's naturally going to have. And so then on the backside, it's hard to convince the donors and the funding that this is a part that we need to protect. But we have done it. We can do it.
Right. If it's a neighborhood, if it's in a neighborhood, especially a low income neighborhood, it might be small, but to me, the value is more in how many people it's gonna help.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I also think it'd be interesting to do a project where there's some, is there other ways we can use the land that will actually help build community too? If there's a building, now I don't know if Mount Grace would totally go for this, but I would love to. A building that could become a music venue or something else that could enhance the community. Is there ways that by protecting the land and moving it away from anything that harms the land, are there ways that we can help build community in those kind of ways too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm thinking of some of these like areas near the river, like the Miller's Meadow area. like there was a field trip recently that was kind of looking at all these places along the river and like thinking of dam removals and like just how to prioritize where that like I guess the removal might, I don't know, I guess where to focus on. But I'm thinking of stewardship opportunities around these places. Like that if, I don't know if these, I guess I just don't have this idea fully fleshed out to communicate it yet. But I am wondering if the Martin's compost is on radar at all as a place in Greenfield to conserve. Do you know about that?
It's not one of my projects, but yeah, there's a lot of talk about how to do that and what we're going to do for that. But I don't have a lot of good specifics for that, but that is definitely one. So any of the farm stuff, there's a lot of work that we do to protect farms to help. I mean, that's where that one comes up. Like working farms, private APRs, the kind of a conservation restriction, but just for the farms. So working lands is something we work with as well, if that starts to pop up.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I could see it. We haven't talked about this, but I could see those type of projects and those sort of to north of town and the large, maybe some larger chunks of wooded area or farmland. That would be a great partnership opportunity for you to hold the CR on, and we could help to facilitate in any way that we can. But it really would be mostly a Mount Grace project of putting a CR on a parcel out there. And as we get more into town, I could see the more interest in the town acquiring, being involved with actual acquisition. Maybe there's a CR with you that's a part of that. I know we haven't applied for some state grants like the land acquisition grant in a number of years, so that's been on my radar. Or I should say, I don't know if we ever have as a city. So we'd be very competitive for that particular state grant. So I'm very interested in finding the appropriate project that we could use CPA funds to cover our share, partner with a group like you to hold the CR and protect a parcel that the town would acquire without needing to raise too much extra funds, if any. So that's that's been the model that's been on my mind of hope, once we get a little further down the road.
Yeah, we're working on one on the river in Montague though, where it's access to the Connecticut canoe launch. Small parcel, maybe it's 4 acres in all, with just that goal of let's just get right to the river. And DCR holds the CR. We own the property. We're working with AMC, Mass Trails, so a couple other groups, and it's a small project, but pulling in all those groups allows us to make sure it's done correctly. Even age and dementia, we had Life Path is involved in some of our projects as well, so we can pull in a lot of these different partners if and really look at a piece of property and give a bunch of different ideas of what we could do with it that may not just fit conservation necessarily.
Yeah. Great. Good. Any other questions from our team? Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, Seth. Our main goal is just sort of starting to build this relationship, and so that as things come up and we're just comfortable being in touch and picking up the phone or shooting an email and just saying, hey, we got something going on, let's sit down and chat. We got this whole get to know you part out of the way, and now we can get down to business. So that's sort of the thinking here. So definitely keep us in mind, and as we develop this map of priorities for the city, we'll definitely share that with you when we have it at a point that's shareable.
All right.
And yeah, and don't hesitate to be in touch as if you hear about something that's happening in Greenfield. Would love to partner and help in any way that we can.
Yeah, if at any point, if you, I'm always willing to come out and see what you guys have out there. And then just so you guys know, right now, you are my favorite open space task force.
Hey, all right. Put that
Yeah.
on our website.
There it is, right there. No, anything you need from us, I'm of all the people that work at Mount Grace, my background is more in education, working with kids, working with different populations. So I always look at conservation as to how can I connect the most people. So I love the idea of, is it a project where more people can be served as opposed to more land? And that's my main goal. Yeah. So anything you have, I got it.
Great.
That's super exciting. I'm really excited to run a lot of things by you in the future.
All right. Awesome.
Cool.
Great. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate you taking the time at the end of the day here. Really, really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Yeah. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
All right. Any follow-up comments on that discussion?
Just that it was interesting. I like to hear other people, how other people think, you know.
Yeah.
Like he says, he thinks out of the box. I like that. It's opens new ideas.
Right. It's interesting to hear their interest in restoration projects, which historically have not been a big part of the land trust world, but it's increasingly so. I know at Mass Audubon we've been doing increasingly more. The trustees have this project in Williamsburg that's been making the news recently, Beaver Brook. So I think it's definitely the trend in the conservation world, which makes a lot of sense. There's real value in that kind of work. So it's exciting to think about having some good partners to, if the right project comes up, that we could help to move that forward.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So I don't know. So we've talked with Franklin Land Trust, we've talked with Mount Grace. Those are definitely the two regional players that we happen to fall right on the border of each. There are, of course, larger scale like Mass Audubon and trustees that are involved with conservation projects that tend to be less likely as a partner for smaller projects in a town, unless it was of a particularly high value in some way to them. I think are most likely, those two groups are our most likely partners for a land protection project in town. But is there any other group that we can think of that we would want to invite in that realm?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about an indigenous group, since that was on the plan to work with that community. And I think that's really relevant for land stewardship. So it could be good just to find out what if they have any interest in meeting with us and what sorts of criteria they might find valuable, and if there's any possibility to work on something. I could look into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you had the right, I know the Nolambika project is active around here. Is Nolus Braids? I know we're working with them in southern part of the state, but he had mentioned that the North Quabbin they're working with them, so I guess they cover a large area as well. But yeah, if you wanted to explore possibilities of somebody that we could invite, for sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Is it called nose braids? I'm writing the
No
nose braids?
loose.
No
No
what?
loose,
Oh,
like
no
free.
loose braids.
Yeah.
I thought I was trained nose braids. Okay, thank you. No
Yeah.
loose braids.
All right. We lost our one public member before our public comment time, so we do have some extra time. Is there anything? Did folks feel good about where we left our priorities conversation before we jumped on with Seth? Is there anything else that folks wanted to add in there? No. Okay. Great. Any announcements of anything that's coming up?
I have two quick
Yeah.
things. The tree committee is hosting a planting at Just Roots on Saturday from 9 to noon, doing some nursery plantings. I'm going to try and check it out from like 10 to noon. And then the State Department of
Which day?
Conservation. This Saturday, the 19th.
Okay.
And then the State Department of Conservation Services changed the open space and recreation plan, not requirements, but I don't know, the rules, regulations. It's no longer a 7-year plan, it's a 10-year plan now. So we'll be good for an extra 3 years. They're making it retroactive a couple of years. So Eric will get the official letter, but just for our work, we have an extra 3 years.
All right, we're gonna need it. There's a lot of
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. That's good to know. Yeah. Great. Thanks. Any other announcements? I know Pat wanted to discuss our meetings and the possibility of getting to a hybrid meeting time, which it seems like is a challenge with the city calendar and our calendar, our availability aligning, and had mentioned exploring some other places. Do folks know? I had asked Matt, and I think he had said that like the library space is not an official, cannot be used for official town meetings. I know that there's other spaces like the library that have hybrid technology, but I thought he said there were some limitations of which places could be used for official meetings. Does anybody else know anything about this?
No, I didn't know that.
No. I'll have to double check that with him. Because I think John Zahn, although I think that John Zen Center has the technology is not quite as user friendly, if I recall, but
I mean, Jonah, do you want Pat to take that on since you already have so many things?
Yeah,
Sounds like
Pat
she was willing.
If she's willing to explore that, that would be great. It did, when we did our survey of our availability, I don't think I can pull that back up and I could share the results with her. I think it was 5 o'clock was the earliest that we could do. Although there was some flexibility on days of the week, I think so. But that 5 o'clock time is what's limiting for City Hall. Just that's a lot of things happen at that time in that space, starting at 5 or 6.
So why don't we ask Pat to check with Matt, right?
Sure.
What other physical places there are that are available on the days and times that you will send her.
That I will share with her. Okay, yeah, great. Sounds good. Thanks, Francois. Yeah. Great. So our next meeting is May 12th, assuming we stick with the same schedule. As I said, I'm going to be away for a couple weeks, so I'll probably send out an agenda in early May, and we'll try to make some progress.
Yes,
sounds good.
We'll do what we can. Anything else that folks want to add? We do have extra time here. If there's anything else that anybody wants to chime in with for us. We can also wrap up early. Hey, thanks everybody for taking the time we're doing the best. We're doing the best we can. I think it's good. We're making progress, and we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
I think
We will.
if we weren't doing this, there would be no progress being made. So any progress we make is something. It's what's good.
Progress, yes. All right, well, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I second. All in favor.
Okay. Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Nice to see
you.
you all.
Nice to see you.
Bye.
Take care.